Welcome to The Rundown, where we count down the most interesting topics and nothing is off limits. So be sure to leave a comment below on what you think would be the best topic for discussion, and we'll feature it.
We might get Marky Mark.
Who could forget growing up in the 90s?
Hello! It reeked.
For this list, we're counting down the most underrated kids movies of the 90s that we thought were totally the bomb.
It's the bomb!
So put on that starter jacket, throw your hair up with your scrunchies and butterfly clips, and get ready to take a walk down memory lane with us. Number 10. The Indian in the Cupboard. Based on a children's book by Lynn Reed Banks, this 90s gem is about a boy named Omri.
Me?
Who was also Banks' son's name as well. He receives a cabinet for his birthday that actually brings his toys to life. Directed by the legendary Frank Oz, best known for the voice of Yoda and several other Muppets, this heartwarming family fantasy did not do as well as expected.
Me?
With a budget of $45 million and the talents of Frank Oz and the writers and producers of E.T., the movie only grossed $35.7 million at the box office. Considered to be controversial at the time for the stereotypical display of Native American culture, people have eased up a bit on this movie over the years and now consider it to be a treasured favorite. Number 9. Drop Dead Fred. This fantasy comedy is enjoyed by both children and adults alike. The ever-sexy Phoebe Cates plays the lead role as Lizzie. Okay, we'll play the clip. This movie is about a young woman trying to battle her inner fears of her controlling mother and her cheating husband, all while finding her place in the world. Lizzie starts seeing her childhood imaginary friend again in the midst of her depression, who brings her both comfort and chaos. After battling her fears with Fred in a tripped-out dream world, she finally finds self-acceptance and realizes she no longer needs Fred. Unfortunately, the previews for this movie were taken a bit too seriously by the viewers. People thought the movie seemed idiotic with tasteless humor before even seeing the film.
I got some dog poo right here.
Today, this movie has a large fan base and is now quoted to cheer you up, make you laugh, cry, and question everything about your life.
Nice job. Nice job. Couldn't have done better myself.
Number 8. Harriet the Spy. Starring a 10-year-old Michelle Trachtenberg in her first movie debut, as well as Nickelodeon's first featured film, this comedy drama focuses on a 6th grade outcast's revenge after a notebook she uses to spy on her friends is made public. This movie had mixed reviews, being criticized for misleading viewers. This movie was supposed to be an updated version of Louise Fitzhugh's children's novel, but critics deemed it no such thing. Today, however, adults enjoy rewatching this movie as it brings them back to their happier childhood days. Number 7. The Page Master.
I am a page master. Follow me.
This box office bust starring a young Macaulay Culkin as Richard, a young boy who is scared of everything and obsessed with his own safety.
Hey, Tyler! What's the matter? Are you afraid to jump?
He hides in a library during a storm and slipped and is knocked unconscious, putting him into an animated world where he has to battle his way through classic novels to escape.
You're a cartoon.
Your journey begins.
This movie was slammed by the critics with a Razzie Award nomination, an 18% Rotten Tomatoes rating, and has been called a sad and dreary film. With a budget of $27 million, it only made $13.7 million at the box office. After the release of its popular video game, more and more people gave this movie a try and actually liked it.
Yes!
Over time, it has been considered original, imaginative, and truly underrated. Number 6. Fern Gully.
Deep in the heart of the forest, there is a magical world where wondrous creatures play the day away.
Bad monkey!
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
This environmentally friendly movie is set in a magical Australian rainforest inhabited by fairies. With the threat of their home being destroyed, a young fairy named Krista shrinks a human logger named Zack down to fairy size.
You shrank me?
Yeah. Krista, Zack, the forest animals, and all the fairies then have to stop the loggers and a demonic-looking entity representing pollution.
Oh my god, dude, look how dirty and crappy everything is. Hey, why don't you people quit slacking off and get a job? What's wrong with you? Go to college.
With the unique villainous voice of the legendary Tim Curry. I know, scary, right? Speaking of unsettling, an ever-hyped-up Robin Williams also plays the voice of a mentally unstable bat that was used for animal experimentation, even though it didn't do as well as expected, mainly due to the fact that it wasn't made by Disney. It's described as funny, scary, magical, and has a killer movie soundtrack. Number 5. Blank Check. When you were a kid, did you ever fantasize about what you'd do if you had an unlimited amount of money?
Bunch of hookers and cocaine.
Well, in this movie, fantasy becomes reality when a young Preston is almost run over on his bike by a rich money-laundering criminal named Quigley, who accidentally gives Preston a blank check for damaging his bike.
Blank check.
For $1 million.
Jello Beats, holla at me.
And Chewy on some hot nigga. Like I took to see when I shot niggas. Like you seen him twirl, then he drop, nigga.
My nigga.
Preston then prints a check for $1 million cash under the alias Macintosh. Now he has to avoid an angry gang of thugs and suspicious police. When the movie came out, the reviews were absolutely brutal, said to be materialistic, shallow, and by far the worst Disney movie as far as teaching children good moral values. The parents hated it, but the 90s kids loved watching their wildest fantasies played out on screen. So maybe mom and dad should just loosen up a bit. Number 4. Hook. This 1991 spin on the classic Peter Pan story focuses on a now adult Peter who goes back to Neverland to rescue his children after being kidnapped by Hook. With a little help from Tink and the Lost Boys, Peter remembers what it was like to be the boy that was never supposed to grow up. Although it did well in the box office, it got mixed reviews, saying the material was unimaginative and not very original. Spielberg himself even said he didn't like any part of it, but Spielberg can suck it. This film is loved and cherished by a massive number of people who are bringing back their inner child right alongside Peter as they watch this movie. And he originally wanted this film to be a musical starring Michael Jackson as Peter Pan.
No, I am Peter Pan.
You're Michael Jackson.
I'm Peter Pan in my heart.
Thankfully, Michael refused when he found out it was about Peter Pan as an adult.
That's totally ignorant. Because they're ignorant.
Go figure. Number 3. Hocus Pocus. Even though this film was not considered a critical or commercial success, it later became a very popular cult classic. After Max accidentally awakens the Sanderson sisters, who were executed over 300 years ago for witchcraft,
We shall be back.
they now have until sunrise to steal the souls of children and gain immortality. Now it's up to Max, his little sister Danny, and girlfriend Allison to stop the sisters before time runs out. When this film came out, it failed to compare with the debut of the summer's big box office hits, and was looked at as silly and mildly entertaining. This film is now said to be very underappreciated. With the charismatic witches, the engaging storyline, and just the right amount of creepy and funny. This film has now gained immortality as a cult favorite. Number 2, The Witches. This forgotten gem was the final film of Jim Henson's before his untimely death. This rare black comedy for children told a story of an orphan boy named Luke staying in a hotel in England with his grandmother. Luke and his new friend Bruno stumble upon a meeting for the prevention of cruelty to children. However, they discover the meeting is made up of witches, who actually were men dressed as women, to distribute a potion turning all the boys in England to mice. After being turned into mice themselves, Luke and Bruno now have to figure out a way to put a stop to their plan. This film was raved by critics, but crapped out in the box office. It was based off a novel by the author Roald Dahl, but it didn't hold the same ending as his book, so he completely flipped shit, calling the film vulgar, in bad taste, and utterly appalling. Well, that's showbiz for ya.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Number 1, Homeward Bound. This heartwarming remake of the 1963 film The Incredible Journey follows two dogs,
He's Shadows.
Shadow and Chance,
He's Chad.
and Sassy the cat,
She's Sassy.
on a charming and suspenseful adventure through the Sierra Nevada wilderness.
Yeah! Awesome time! This is very fun for me! Hey! Oh, hey! This is fun, right? The best! And me too!
After escaping from their caregiver's ranch while their family's on vacation.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
The three companions then set out to get back home to their family.
The domesticated animals wouldn't stand a chance at it.
This movie had a mostly positive response, except a few uptight critics who preferred the original narrative version. But it was also said to be very boring and slower pace compared to the other children's movies that were coming out at the time.
Kids! Kids! Ah! It's so awesome!
However, the lovable characters, breathtaking scenery, and inspiring heartfelt story has stood the test of time as a family favorite. We hope you enjoyed this blast from the past of what we think are the most underrated kids' movies of the 90s. What were your favorite movies growing up? List any in the comments that you remember or that we might have forgotten. Also, we come up with new and different lists every week, so leave a comment on what you think would be a great topic to cover. We'll be sure to feature it and give you a shout out. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what we'll be covering next week on The Rundown.